Okay, so I think we are live. Yeah, should be fine. Should be live. Okay, so let's start from where we left off this afternoon. And yeah, it was around here. So this afternoon we basically managed to have a connection between the canvas itself, so the modification of the canvas and the panel in here. So we can modify the position, we can modify the opacity, and whenever we change something here, it's actually going to change the X and Y position of the element. So right now I think we're going to do the same thing for the other values, since we here have some fields, borders, also shadow, the border, the shadow, and down there we have also other dimensions. So for example, the width and the height. So that one should be pretty straightforward. So let's see. Width and height. This one should be pretty easy. Width and height. Okay. Now, one other thing is this will become a pretty huge component in terms at least of fields that we need to have. And in this case, I probably want to have I want to have something like this, but also for, let me see, width and height. Yes, so similar to that, but there is an extra feature that we may need to take into consideration, which is in here we have this lock, and this lock basically is the lock for the ratio, and we want to keep that, since it's basically when we change the size of this thing, if we change it like this, we are just going to change both the scaling factor for the X and the Y. But if we are doing it from here, we may want to have the lock in order to register the change from one side and the other. So let's start doing it with, usually it's always width by height, right? I guess so. Height, and then we're going to have width and height. Okay, we won't go for over optimizations right now. Like width and height should be enough. And in here, in between, we want to have the lock. Yeah. And in order to have the lock, we want to have it probably like in between. And right now, I installed the radix icons. So let's check out what kind of icons do we have in here. This is a fork of the original Radix UI icon. React, view, okay. Credits, hero icons. Oh, I know hero icons. So, wait, can I have a list? Okay, that looks like a list to me. So, what if I want to have the lock? Lock close, lock open 1, lock open 2. Okay. So, I mean, let's try it out. What if, wait. This is the second time that this tries to be imported. Lock, oh, okay, lock close icon. Let's see where I left lock. So this thing here, and we are going to give it a class of h5v5. This should be automatically like, oh no, it's not as in, so it's not going to change it to size 5, but we can also just do size 5 and it should be fine. And yeah, I don't think it cares about the size right now. Oh, of course it's in the between of some flex, so it needs to add the flex none, and now it's going to respect the size. But this is also a button actually. So do we have any specific special consideration if we have a button that is just an icon with icon? Cool. So what do you do in this case? You just throw the icon inside. That's about it. Sounds reasonable to me. Sounds reasonable. So we're going to have the button here. but okay, we just have the icon, the size of the button. Hopefully, how about we just change it to be here. Please adapt your automatically. Not really. How about this would be like size 3 and then here we have a P1 or something like that. No, it didn't like this thing. So wait, is this too low? Size, I don't know, 6? How about that? I mean, it's not bad, but probably it's better if it is like, how is it called here? Outline? Outline or ghost? Probably ghost. What is outline or ghost? A variant, right? Variant here. Outline, you say. I mean, it's okay. What do? I just say variant something? Variant, yeah. Variant like ghost. Let's see here. Yeah, so now it's a button, but it's like with the variant. So what we want to have in here is like const locked ratio. It's like false. And now based on like toggle the locked ratio, we are going to do just lock ratio value is equal to not the locked ratio value. Okay, now where we are going to use this function, we're going to use this on the button, and in particular when we have the click on the button, and we are going to toggle it. Now also we need to change the icon based on whether it's toggled or not. So if it's not locked ratio, otherwise we need to import the other one, which is open. I think I liked more than 2, but we are going to see about that. So this one will be vs lock open 2 icon. Okay, so yeah, this already works, but I don't like the positioning of this thing. And also the problem with the positioning is that we have like a label in here and we don't have the label on top of that, and this thing should be in the middle. So one way to fix that would be to like have a fake label just for the sake of aligning this thing, or the other way around it would be just to cheat a little bit more than that. How about this? Too much. I mean, it's reasonable to me. It looks totally reasonable. But probably I like more if we have the, I don't know, maybe the ghost one, like the outline one is better. How about the outline? I mean, the outline looks cleaner, but if we just zoom too much, if we zoom in, they are not aligned. And the reason is not only like the fake alignment that I tried to do in here, but it's also like the size. The size of the component is like H7. On the other hand, I gave it size. Let's try this one. Yeah, now at least they are the same size, so it doesn't hurt to look at. Should be fine. Should be fine. Let's reset this one. And okay, cool. Now we need to also update the values for that. So if we want to update the values, we are going to here. For now, we are going to do that just manually. And as I mentioned before, I'm not really a big fan of doing this thing manually right here, but also I don't want to over-optimize at the very beginning, because maybe later on we are going to need like redefine the requirements a little bit, and in that case it would be an overkill. So wait, this thing I don't need it anymore, at least for the float value in here. For here, probably what I want to do is to cut those value with the floor. Do I want to do that? Huh. Yeah, probably so. clamped, but it's not really like clamped, it's floored, it's normalized. How would you call this thing? How would you call this thing? Let me check. Okay. Let's go with floored value. So basically what we want to do is to floor the value itself. Floor the value itself, active top after we multiply it by 100 and divide by 100 the result, and then we want to set it in here like the floored value. So this should also be applied to the left one. It will have left. Now we are going to do the same thing for width. Okay, wait a second. We don't have, okay, we haven't decided the format here yet. I think it's in the store. Yeah, so this one should have also like width, height, and then it should be good to go. So in here we have width, and it's fine. Then we have height, okay. To do something about this atrocity of if cases later on. Thanks. Okay. At least I feel like less bad about that. Okay, still. Oh, that's interesting. What happened? Let me refresh. Okay. So it looks like it tried to change the size of the selection. Wait a minute. How did this happen? So we have the height, right? Am I tripping on something in here? So, height is undefined and width is undefined, which could be why in the previous target decided just to collapse and break them. And just saying, but the reason could be that I'm setting wrong values in here, and also we have the lock here, and here we should have height. Yeah, let's see if that's the reason. No, that's not the only thing that is going on in here. So we are changing the size, and so the movement still works, but so yeah, perfect. So I forgot about this one. Target width or 0, but basically should be always something in there. So height. This is always part of the atrocity that we are going to fix later on. This is okay. Width and height, they are not changing right now. Okay, they are not changing since the width and the height probably are still the same. Yeah, it's just changing with the scale. So this object still maintains the same property as before. We have way too many console logs all over the place right now. I want to get rid of them. Console log event. I don't care about this one right now. I don't care about this thing right now. And let's go with the last one as well. So okay, perfect. Now I have nothing, right? Perfect. The thing that I want to have in here is whenever we are changing the size of this, I want to change the value each time you have object modified. Okay, so this will show us the change that happens in here. Okay, perfect. So with after the modification, width and height, they are still the same, but now we have a zoom, and the zoom is the same thing as the scaling. Now, why this is important? This is important because we are not altering these dimensions in here, but the zoom one. And this, so my point is, if this is correct and we have like 20 times 348 times 348, just to be precise, 69 and 6. So if I change the size of this thing to, not even sure if this is going to change, 69, yeah, 69 in here. Almost. So the zoom and the scale here are the same value, right? So if I go with 20 times whatever is in here, it's 6978, right? So if I go and change this thing and this thing, so it's basically 70. It's basically 70, and the size is slightly different. At first, the zoom value, my guess is that at first, like, the zoom value should be 1, right? Yeah, zoom here, and also the scaling should be, yeah, also the scaling. But wait, this means that this looks more like the Unity transform. Transform. Like, we can check just the UI of this thing, I guess. Yeah. So this is like position, rotation, and scale. So you have also the scale, but not the actual size of what you are trying to achieve, unless you specify the size. This is the transform, right? This is the transform. But for example, what happens if you have the transform for what if you want to specify like the size of something, and it has to be like in unit, right? You have position, rotation, and scale, but you don't have I hope for it to have something more to that, because like, for example, in here, right, in here, when we change the size of this thing, since it's an SVG, we are actually changing also like the width and the height. But what happens if, okay, that's the question, because we clearly can see that if we change the size of it to be like this, the stroke is also changing. And the reason is because we are also like transforming with the property of the scale everything to the object itself, meaning also also the stroke. But in here, when you get like to 80, right, we get to 80 and we still have the stroke which is the same. So this is the basic difference that I can see. So you are changing the actual property of the width and the height in some cases, and in other cases you have the scale, the scaling factor of the object itself. So by doing this, we are changing the scale and not the height or the width, which is fine. I guess we can live with that. But I guess if it could be more useful if I could also allow the user to change the scale, that could be useful. Yeah. Let me think about it. Yeah, sure. Let's just add it. It will be like a couple of extra things in here, and we also will have another locked ratio for that. So okay, we can remove this one. Now, first of all, let's try and give it a shot of implementing like the locking rotation. So what we want to have is inside of the property panel, when we are changing something, because the change comes from here. So whenever some values are changed, we need to check. We are still checking the active object in here. We are still checking the active object and not the active transform. Okay, what is this thing, right? What is this thing? And we have set width and high, and this happens for what? For the change of values. And this changes. Okay, so this is the change. I need to mark it somehow. Change from the canvas, and here we have the change from the property panel, right? So in here, whenever we change something from the property panel, we are going to take stuff from here and modify it. This also means that value in here at the very beginning will be different from the value. Yeah, it will be different from the value that we have inside of the active transform. So SVG store active transform. So what we did before is we have the active transform in here that is keeping the it's keeping the values from the transform of the object, and they are being updated as soon as something moves on the canvas. This also means that this is like the most recent copy of whatever was inside of the canvas at that point with those coordinates and like different values. This means that I can use it to detect the change between the current properties that I'm using inside of the property panel and the one that are inside of the canvas. So if we have some value, for example, for the width, okay, and then we have the lock property, then we are going to ignore, we need to ignore the height, and we need to set it ourselves. So that's the only thing. So one thing is, first of all, if this is not like locked, what is locked? What was the name? Locked ratio. Locked ratio. So first of all, if we don't have a locked ratio, then we can just ignore everything and this will work as expected. But what happens if we have the lock ratio? If we have the lock ratio, well, then we will start first considering whether the current value of the width is different from the value that we remember having before inside of the active transform. Yeah, okay, so yeah, you also need to check if the active transform is there. I mean, it has to be there. So let me just do it like this. If not, SVG store. So this will act like a guard for us. You will return, but before returning, so error. Nope. Can I do that, right? Also error. Active transform not found when watching changing properties. So this is reasonable, and right now it should not complain anymore about this thing here. So this is fine, and if this is changed, so first of all, if we have a value with which is different from undefined, and the value with is different from this thing, then okay, this is the case when we are locked and the selection is on the width. This is one thing. Otherwise we have the situation in which we have this and it's like the height in here and height also in here. What changes in those situations is I'm going to multiply based on the ratio before. So wait a second, the ratio has to be locked, so the locked ratio is dumb. It should not be a boolean, probably it's better if it's something else. So in case I start in here, this could be a number or null. Why? Because when you toggle it, you basically are saying if there is a locked ratio value, okay, if there is a locked ratio value, then you need to toggle it by removing it, which is fine. Otherwise, we need to take some data and put them inside, and the locked ratio value in this case here value should be equal to the width that we know inside of the I mean, we also need to consider that the SVG store needs to have an active transform, otherwise this should not work. So again, if this doesn't have an active transform, we shouldn't even be here in the first place. So this would be an error eventually. And where was it? Active transform not found. This is okay. We have too many quotes in here. Not while watching the properties, but when toggling the locked ratio. Also, like the toggle locked ratio, this works for now, but then we also want to have it probably for the size, right? Not for the size, for the scale, So in this case, we are going to take it from the SVG store for the active transform. We are going to take two values, so we are going to have the width and the height from here, active transform, and then we are going to say, okay, width on height, right? This could not exist on property null. That's not nice. That's not nice. Why would you say something like that? Null as this, but if this is in here, active transform, then I'm, oh yeah, sorry, that's okay, this is fine. So I'm not sure this is complete yet though. Like, we have the toggle, right? So the toggle is being called in here, but what about the values, right? We are changing them in here. Could it work? Oh, of course not. Of course not. I forgot about setting these values. So in this case, we are going to set the width to the value that you requested, but the height actually will be for the value that I'm tripping on something very simple. This is not going to be the height. I need to multiply it by the locked ratio. So every one of width is one locked ratio of every one width is one locked ratio times the height, right? Yeah, I think so. Man, it's so in this case, what I want to have is probably the difference from what I had before, and based on that, right, const diff, the difference itself should be the SVG store, or it doesn't really matter, like the new width or whatever. It's like absolute values. Should I have the absolute value? No, I want to have also the sign of the change. So active transform like width minus the value width. So this will give me like some kind of difference, and then I need to say, okay, I want to have the height, which is basically multiplied by the difference. The difference has to be something like this: locked ratio value. Now value height is possibly undefined. Oh yeah, that's actually, that makes sense. SVG active transform height. Okay, chances that this is going to work on the first try are like super low, since I'm not very sure that the difference here is going to work as I want it to. So one thing that we can do is, of course, we can just try it out, and we can see, like, with something, we can start with a square, and I hope it works at least with a square, but there are zero guarantees. So this one actually is showing the locked one, but it should not be locked. It should start as null, meaning that the locked ratio in here is like this. Okay, should start as open. Then let's start with this one. This one looks like a much more doable thing. Okay, so if I lock it and I change the, okay, I'm changing just the width, and the height is not changing in the slightest. So let's see what's going on in here. First of all, let's see if we are triggering the right part of the code at the very least. So this one is being here. If there is active, this is confusing, and or not active, transform not found, or active not found. When watching for properties, return. So at least we can remove one of these things that are basically not so useful. This is just a check for the usual values. Then we have the locked ratio value, and if it's not locked, just keep going. And if the value of the width is different, okay, so we should be in here. So let's see if this is going to work. Okay. Nope, it's not being triggered. Active transform not found. Okay. But why? What is going on in here? Why was it working before and now doesn't even? Did I just change or not active? Then you just return. Do I need it? Do I really need the active object right now? I don't think I do. But here says active set opacity. Okay. So I need it in order to be able to. Yeah, I need it in order to be able to change the properties themselves. And this is. Let's see. So I'm changing values in here, nothing happens. Then I'm going outside, active transform not found. So first of all, how did it get there? Oh, okay. If there are no values, you can just return, and no big deal, right? So this will avoid the trigger. Is it though? Nope. Property panel on line 557. So it's getting here. And active transform not found, or the not active stuff. I mean, we are changing the values, right? Oh, but this should not trigger an error. If there is no active, it should not trigger the error. So in this case here, it's used before it's assigned. Let me just remove this. Okay. Yeah, and this should, yeah, no, it should not trigger the error anyway. So this is kind of okay, but at the same time it's not. Like, this is changing the value, but it's not doing what I was expecting it to do. So it's, I mean, it's just changing without the lock, so of course it's not working. But right now, okay, right now we are triggering it correctly. So yeah, my mistake here was just not clicking it. For some reason I thought it was already clicked. So let's see, if I click this one, and then I move, it's changing the height, okay, but it's not changing the width. And this is this has this difference, right? This keeps increasing in the difference. And the reason why it's doing it is because we are not updating the value of the active transform. And this is a little bit messed up. This is a bit messed up because I don't want to write the function multiple times in different places. So probably it's better just to have a function in here that updates the active transform with whatever value that I need to have as form, with some kind of like payload, but the payload itself should be of some interface. Is this the time where I'm starting already with types in here, or should I just use an interface? Let's just go with a simple interface. There should be like the custom transform, just transform. I don't know, custom transform sounds better, since I don't want to conflict with other existing properties. So this will be in here, this will be the custom transform or now, and this is fine. Perfect. So now when we have this will be a partial custom transform, and basically for each key, for was it object keys? Yeah. for const key of object keys of payload, we are going to just set the value inside of this active transform. Wait, are we using it again as an object? Damn, I thought I can move out from that. True. To do, we are going to move it. To do, move this to composition APIs again. So we want to try it out again. This active transform on the key is equal on the payload of the key, right? This is going to work, right? No, it's not. So the key in here, so payload is a partial custom transform. So ideally, these are all elements that should be inside of the active transform, right? Oh no, because this could be null. This could be null also. So should I do that? If not payload, or if payload is equal to null, then you simply say that this active transform is equal to null, and then you can return from this thing. Otherwise, we have that this active transform will be equal to I don't really like it, not like this. How about this? But all of these properties should be like optional. I'm not even sure that those properties will be set in the first place. So all of these properties are like literally optional to me. And then whatever we have in here, we are already assured that we have either like the active transform itself or an empty object, and then we can set the key. So element implicit has any type, where is it? Because the expression of type string can be used to index the type, top number or whatever. Yeah, sure. Are you really sure about this? Like, I mean, I could force it into any, but so many times I'm just okay. I think this is illegal. This is definitely illegal. I should not do this. But this is what it is. It's basically just like custom type that I have for keys as k of. Does this work? Does this work? So you're not going to complain about this. I see. I see. That's cool. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So let's think what we're going to do with that now, because we have inside of the SVG store we have the update of the active transform. Now by updating the active transform, we are not actually updating the object itself, we are just changing the transform. So this is kind of important. And the thing is that this active transform object is being used as a bridge from the canvas and the property panels. So what can we do? Let's go back to the property panel. In here we are modifying a bunch of values, right? And what I'm trying to avoid right now basically is having the diff here that is not being updated, because after you update it the first time, so by moving it one by one, what is my expectation is that this operation here is going to move stuff as soon as this. Okay, this should not do -5, -6, -7. This should do every single time I press this button -1. The reason is I want to have it relative to the previous modification, right? So in this way it's not going to break. Now if I want to do that, it means that every time I change those values, I need to update SVG store update the active transform. Is this the right place to do that? Change from the, yeah, should be. So in here, I want to do this. Almost right. So I could create a payload and modify stuff. Const payload, which should be of a custom transform type. And since everything is like modifiable here, are you okay? Colors are gone. Whatever. Okay, so in here, if I have like the active set opacity, it's fine, but I also need to update. Does it make sense? Does it make sense? I don't think it does. Because like right now what I'm doing is, okay, I'm going to set it on the active object directly. So it's already there. It's already on the active object. And this is something that I'm doing all the time. And let me see, if I change the active transform, this is going to trigger this, which is going to set the values. I hope I will avoid some kind of like infinite loop stuff, because like by triggering the canvas will trigger again the active transform, which will trigger the property panel, which will trigger the canvas, and so on and so forth. So this would be like a pretty bad scenario, but let's see if we can avoid it somehow. Yeah. So after I did this, probably I don't even need the payload anymore here. If we go in here and just say update the active transform, this is not even needed. If there is an active object, if there is not an active object, then there is no active transform, and then we can return. Otherwise, this active transform is basically equal to transforming stuff like this top, this active transform top, this active object top, right? Yeah, and basically we keep going like this. Height, okay, width, okay, left, this one's maybe here is better, left, and then the opacity is the opacity. Okay. Now this means that this is useless. We are not going to do it. We are not going to use any kind of payload. The reason for not having a payload is simple. We are just using whatever we find. Okay? Okay. We are only using whatever we find inside of the canvas directly. So let's see. We are going to update the active transform. Once the active transform is updated, this could trigger this, the change from the canvas. If that's the case, change from the canvas. You know what's going on with my prettier is that the LSP is not working. Is something wrong now with SVG store active heights property could be undefined. Can I just comment this? No. Also, like the comment side is dead. I have no idea what is going on. Why this thing is so broken right now. Initializing GST TS. Did we do TS update? TS update. All parsers are up to date. Why do I have the feeling that that's not the case? So we have the property, right? Property panel. It looks like it's working. Height is possibly undefined. I can live with that. Well, okay, so so far, let's see what happens if I go in here and say I'm going to change some property, change from the canvas. Okay, because this changed the canvas, right? So right now by doing this, okay, I don't like the fact that it's requesting it only after the change, but whatever. And in here, maximum recursive. Okay, so we basically effed up. So yeah, this is what is happening. It's watching one thing, the other is changing, so we cannot do it this way either. Otherwise, like of course we're going to have like infinite recursion and infinite loops. So yeah, I probably have to go the other way around. There is one place that I need to modify the canvas itself, and there is another place where I will check the active transform. So if I update the active transform, what is going to happen? Does the scene have anything to do with that? Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does, because I have I'm setting in here the active transform to be of a new object. So if I change it, let me see. Yeah, because in one case, like I would like to have the active transform in here, but not if this means yeah, we need to have it based on the active transform, so it means that I cannot do modifications that would trigger. I need to have a copy basically of the active transform and then update the copy. How can we do that? How can we do that without having infinite recursion? So yeah, in order to store the difference, so the problem is that if we don't have the watch deep, we are just modifying some properties. I don't want to rely on the fact that we are not changing the active transform reference, and based on that trigger some event that would be that could be problematic later on. If I'm going to change the values in here, it will be like a copy, right? It will be like the local copy for the active transform. And this would also mean that like if the active transform changes, okay, whenever this changes we are going to store it inside of the local copy. By changing the local copy we will not actually trigger the rest. I mean, it's worth a shot. We call it something like literally the local copy. And what was that? The custom transform, right? Okay, so when we have the watch right in here, it's from the canvas. When we have this, we can have the local copy of the transform, which its value will be equal to the value, whatever it is. All right. So now when we have this and we are going to change some values, we are not going to update the active transform for it, but what we are going to do is we are going to say, okay, I want to update only the local one, only the local copy of the transform. So yeah, probably I can just do it based on each single case. So like the local copy value dot opacity. I mean, it has to exist, of course. So not local copy of transform. Okay, has to be equal to the value opacity of 0 times. Not a fan of this solution. It should be value left, right? Value left. Let me see value right. But this is just in case. This is not the problematic case. Actually, I can ignore it for now. The problematic case is in here. It's whenever I set the width, and the diff in here should be done by the local copy of transform value width minus the value width, right? It is a value not only read, but it's only also like the local copy of the transform could not have the value of width. So in this case, instead of having this one, we are going to have the local copy transform value for the height, which could be undefined as well. It's a bit messy. I don't really like it. It's a bit messy. Let's keep it for now. Let's see what's going on. At least this one should not trigger the infinite loops. And now, when we have done this, we can say, okay, the local copy of the transform value is basically equal to the. No, we are already setting them. No, not really. In this case, I want to see the local copy transform value for the width. Is equal to the value width, and this one for the height, const height. Let me put it like this. Okay. Height. This is going to change the value inside of here. The next time it's going to compare it with the local copy, so the difference should be. I'm not sure about that, honestly. Yeah, it's changing definitely, but I don't know to what. Whoa. So wait, what is going on with that? Like, I just changed some value, and right now the canvas is not even clearing anymore. Whoa, that's interesting. That's absolutely interesting. I want to roll back whatever I did. I want to forget about this thing and find another solution that does not involve keeping watching the different changes. Otherwise, it's going to get pretty messy pretty soon. Now, doing this or having like a special bus for the events wouldn't change much. That's my guess, at least. So we need to find another solution. Like the active transform could be started once, and when we change, for example, some properties of the active object itself. Okay, so let's try this. What if instead of the active transform we are going to use the active object, right? So first of all, when we have the selection, we set the active object in here. So this is being this is done here. Now, when we get in here, when we change something in the canvas, in the active object, then we want to update, of course, also the properties. But this means that I need to reset the active object also when I'm doing some other operation like resizing, which is in the modified triggering here. So update the selection. Update the selection basically says, okay, the active object is the target, but we need to do this probably. Okay, it cannot unpack it. Okay, if the target is equal to null, whatever, you can just target is equal to null. SVG store active object is equal to null, return, forget about it. Then in here, this will not be possible to be null anymore, so we can just unpack it, right? No. What is the active object in the first place? It's either null or a fabric object, right? So I'm passing in here this thing. If target is equal to null, and then you return. But this one cannot be like copied. Object clone. What was it like? No. There was like some deep clone or something. Is it serializable? JSON parts, JSON stringify the target. If that's serializable, it's not going to be a problem. It's going to just change the reference and it's going to update. Active set is not a function at watch deep, so it's not serializable in a way that I wanted it to be. So how about we just create a copy of it by assignment like this. Same stuff. Target. What I'm trying to do is to trigger, yeah, so now it works. I'm trying to trigger the change without actually changing the object. Because otherwise I needed to like disable it for a second and then enable it again in order for the rendering to re-trigger the object. And as of right now, at the best of my knowledge, I don't have any other idea of how to do that without resetting the object itself. Because otherwise, what is going to happen is I'm going to update selection here over the change, and the target is going to be always the same. So in here, console log like target. Now, whenever I change something, so this is moving, this is also moving, and the target is always the same. '55. We have also in here object modified. Problem is that this object is not just like a JavaScript object, also have some like watchers on it and stuff, so I cannot just modify it like this. What I want to do is I want to have a singular way to let me just try this thing. Yeah, this works, but at what price? At what price? Also, this should not trigger the I mean, this will still trigger the active transform to a certain degree, because it's still saying, okay, it's changing the active transform, which is fine. We can live with that for now. We have the property panel in here, and the property panel is only reacting to the active object itself. So by changing, yeah, it's using the change from canvas every single time. So let me see if I change from canvas happened twice now. Happened twice. Of course it does. If not value, return. If there is no active object, there is no reason for that to be triggered. Yeah. So okay, now it happens only once. So it's a solution. It works. Am I proud of it? No, because I'm like cheating in here by saying next tick. waiting for the rendering to happen. Forget about the previous reference, change again the active object, and by that triggering the watcher on the other side. I wish there was a better way, probably there is. If I find it out, I will modify it, but as of now, it has to work like that. So we have the active object that is triggering stuff right now. We are taking the transform, if there is no transform, like we can simplify it a little bit here. If there is no active, we just return console error. There is no active transform in watch active object. And this means that I can remove this part. Okay, now this will change the values, and this is basically initializing it. This is basically like initializing it to whatever values it had in the canvas, and this is fine. Now what we want to do in here is we are saying, okay, I'm changing the values that I'm receiving from the property panel on the other side, and those properties are being applied. Those properties are being applied to the active object. That's also not a solution. That's also not a solution. I have still like half an hour. I need to figure this out. Because by modifying one thing, I'm triggering the other. But I want some degree of change, at least. So the change from the canvas is unavoidable. But what if I'm setting the active value there, right? I'm setting the active value. Is it because of this? So if I change this one, okay, at least it's changing the values, but it's not triggering. It's not triggering the other change. So update active transform. Let's see. No, we are back to the point where not even the opacity is working. And the thing is, we are watching for the values. We are checking for the active object. If there is no value or anything, this active set opacity here is not being triggered, I guess. Change in values. Nope, it's not being triggered. It's not being triggered because like the values object is always the same. So it was not actually this thing in here that has to be like removed from the dip, but the active object itself, I guess, at this point. But if I do that, I'm afraid that it's not going to notice some changes. Like for example, these things here, or I mean, it appears to be working after you select it. We can work with this. We can work with this, yes. Let's see if... Why would that happen though? If I change the values in here, right? Then I'm requesting the rendering of these values, right? So I'm setting the value in here. Request render all. But I'm not changing the properties. I'm not changing the properties of it. Okay, let's first check out let's first check out how to fix the locking part. So, because right now this part works, but this one here, you must be kidding me now. You must be kidding me. So this one works with the local update, but then so when there is the look at the ratio value, wait, what? How is this influencing like the way in which? Oh, I see. Oh, I see. This happens only. It was in the wrong parentheses. Okay. For a moment, I lost hope for like the rendering whatsoever. Like, I didn't know how to figure that out, but it was just in the wrong set of parentheses. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. We're back on track. So right now this also is fine. We don't have like the infinite loop anymore, and if we want to like change with the lock, we want to see the diff in this case. This lock clearly is not working right now, and I want to see what is the value of the lock ratio. So we are modifying the, oh yeah, of course we are not setting the height whatsoever. I want to see what is the diff value from the active transform. No, let me check first of all, like what is the locked ratio value. I want to see this thing just to make sure that this, okay, this is 1, this is fine. So now we want to have the difference between, we don't have the local, do you recommend any books or resources on programming? Books or resources on programming, that's a good question. So actually one thing that I feel like recommending, depending whether you want to pay for stuff or not, but one thing that I found very useful was Maximilian Schwarzmüller. So this guy on Udemy, I don't know why I really like the way in which he explains stuff. So whenever I started programming basically back in college. So whenever I started also watching his videos. I mean, some of his stuff is free on YouTube, so you don't have to go and like pay for courses. But I checked out some of his courses, and it was like pretty well done. I would say it was very easy to grab and understand. So yeah. In terms of like instructors that can tell you something about like programming, I think this one it's really good. Regarding books, I had this book for Java, and I started programming in Java at first, like back in the college, but I don't feel like recommending it like at all. Yeah, other books. Now that I think of it, like the books that I used to study programming were like quite bad. Like they didn't convey what they wanted to convey probably to me, but they could. It just could be a me issue. But yeah, I was always like more able to understand stuff by doing stuff like this, like basically not understanding something until it clicks. Or just watching videos with people like that would explain stuff. But yeah, books, man, I don't think I have good resources to recommend you personally. Maybe later something will come up, but yeah. So here we go. We were in here, and we have the lock, right? The lock is currently put to 1. We want to update the active set to the height. So const height here was like this. Height. Okay. Now the difference here, this could be undefined eventually. This is fine. I don't mind it right now. That's not what's supposed to happen. That's not what's supposed to happen. I've been coding right now. Yeah, how long have I been coding for? So I've been coding right now from like professionally. I started in like 2019 with in my first company. So, but before that, I started like a little bit during the college period, which was 2017, I guess, 2018 maybe, 2018, and then like I got my like first professional gig as a software engineer in 2019. So basically from back then. Okay, so in here, whether something is undefined or we are getting the wrong values, but this is not what's supposed to happen anyway. So we have the diff, and it is being divided by the lock ratio. So like the diff actually should be probably multiplied by the lock ratio. Now the height, we should just add the difference for the lock ratio. I don't know, let's see if that works out. Let's lock this thing in. I mean, it's working in the opposite direction of what it should. So at least we have a good point. Let's lock this in. Yep, so this is working, but as you can see, this is changing correctly the height and the width as is expected, but it's not updating the other value. It's not updating the other value unless I just deselect and select it back again. So this is not nice. We need to update the other value, and in order to do that, since we have the set field option in here, we have the set field option for the width, and we need to do it for the height though. Okay, now one thing that it's not assignable to type what set the argument of type height. So my LSP here I think is broken, but anyway, now the issue is disappeared. Okay, so here we go. Oh, perfect. Now as you can see, like we have the lock in here that is showing that yeah, and it's changing the values correctly. So this is fine. This looks to be totally fine. Now one other thing that I would like to do in here is we have the variant here of the outline, but I don't like it that much, because if we have the locked ratio, I want this one to be black in order to be able to see that this is actually being locked, meaning that if we have the locked ratio, then the case is what is the variant for that? Base default, look like default. Otherwise it's going to be ghost. Let's see if that works out. Yeah, so now it's locked. Okay, perfect. So it's changing based on that, which is cool. Now we still have like around 20 something minutes, and let's add also one more thing, which is let's first fix maybe this thing, because height is possibly undefined, and I don't want to have a situation where this stuff is undefined. Let's make it like this, different from undefined, and the height is different from undefined. So that's the case. There is no issue anymore in here, and the transform width is possibly undefined. I mean, this should not be the case though, because we are in here and we know that this has been. Is there any chance that this has not been set for any reason? Is there any chance? I mean, I can still like say, let me just double confirm that the SVG store value. Nope. Active transform width is different from undefined, and this will just okay. So in that case, if any of these is not true, we are going to have the we're going to have the it's going to skip it, so we don't have the error. Now this one I need to check the height, so SVG active transform height, so those two values are not undefined. Then I'm going to change this thing here. I need also to have this actually, so I will take both of them and I will set the height value in here. Where is the diff? Why don't I have the diff? And this time we are going to check for the height. We are going to check for the height, and this will be the value of the width. Yeah, sure. Width. Okay, width. Can I just have width? That's cool. Thanks. Perfect. So let's see that this works in both situations. So I will change just the height right now. Oh, we checked the square so far. This could be okay. Appears to be working, I think. Oh. Interesting. We are back to the recursion problem. But this time should be slightly different. Let me see. We still have the check for the deep values in here. We are changing. So why this didn't happen before? Why this didn't happen when we had like this, right? So if the issue is not here, right, why should it happen? Okay, first of all, like the ratio is not being maintained in the right way. So by changing it, I'm not getting the actual ratio. I mean, the safest thing to do, no, it's not even that. It's probably getting the values directly from the, it's probably taking directly the values from the active object itself. Because on one side you will have a copy anyway, like the active transform needs to be the reference for something. So let's suppose that we have this situation, right? Then we are going to lock and change. This is like slowly turning. This is like even changing even more. So there's definitely something that is wrong in here. The ratio formula here must be wrong. So unless this is taking the active transform and not the actual value for the height, which is likely what I want instead to have, because this is the old value. So could be that I want to have this one instead. Height, because this is the one that we are going to set on the other side. So this is the case where I take the value, okay, and the diff in this case I need to print it in order to be extra sure of that, because otherwise I guess that it's going to be something else. So let's suppose that we have this shape like this. Okay, then we are going to just switch and change it, and the diff is always -1, so this is what I wanted, but this is not applying in the way I wanted it to do. So with the minus in here, we are always the diff is -1, lock the ratio. We are changing Let me see. Most likely I'm like messing up one of those values, like value hide or SVG, actual transform value hide, or something like that. So if I go and say like 80/20, right, then this automatically was locked in for some reason. Wait, what? Why? Why are you locked in? Wait a minute. Let's suppose we have 80. Oh, okay. By pressing enter, I'm locking it or unlocking it. This needs to change. Okay, sure, fine, whatever. Now this is being changed, and I want to change this one to 40. What happens? Minus 140. Minus 140. Nope. That's not how this should look like, and I'm doing a difference in here, so something else must be wrong. We have the lock ratio, right? It's not undefined or something, right? Locked ratio value. So let's do the same example. 80. Okay, this is now locked. I will switch to 40. This locked ratio 4. Yeah, sure. So locked ratio is 4. I switched and new value. Wait, the new value should be literally, the height should be literally the value width times the locked ratio. Should it be divided? Because I have 20, but you need to start from the from its value, right? Or not? Should be the new value times the locked ratio value. I'm messing up something so easy. It's okay. Not really. How about this? It's yes. That's what I wanted, I guess. Yes. So yeah, I don't know why I got stuck with thinking that I need to modify the value starting from the actual height. Why actually I already have all the data that I need to have by having just the ratio, so I need to just multiply or divide them. So the difference in here is not very useful. I don't need to have this one either. Like the width for this thing should be since the ratio, like, should it be like times the locked ratio? I mean, I can just check it right now. I want to do the same example on the other side. I'm going to say this is locked, this will be 40, and 40 is half. Okay, so this will be right now 80. Nope. This is the width, right? So, oh yeah. So as you can see here, I'm setting the wrong value. Active set this one, then the width is going to be this times the other one. So let's do it again. Okay, let's go 40, so half. This is fine. Let's go 160. This is half. Perfect. So this is working right now. Okay, perfect. We don't have the tissue anymore. So let me just commit this part. And basically what we did in here, we have a bunch of numbers, we have a bunch of fields, but we have the update for the fit add height and width to the property panel, right? Yeah, so we are going to have this, and what I want to have now, custom transform. Okay, this one's not useful. What I want to have now is also like the scale. So scale x, we are going to have scale x, scale y, and basically these are like the same values as we have in the one that we see with the zoom in here, right? So zoom 1, zoom 2, or somewhere around here there will be like also the scale. So someone could call them zoom, but other times like when you like change the size of this thing, it could appear that there is also like scale, yeah, scale x and scale y. So otherwise, if you don't have them, they are 1. So this is fine, scale x, scale y, let's have them also in here. And the reason why I want to have them is because like I saw that this one in vector, they don't have them, right? They are changing stuff in here, and basically this is changing like the width and the height, but it's not changing the scale. And when you change the border, and let's suppose that we are going to set the border to something that is not, yeah, if we are changing the border, right, we have 9 pixels or like 2 pixels in here. That doesn't sound like having 2 pixels of a border. And the reason why this happens is because we are changing the width and the height. But let me put them like in 300, 300. This doesn't sound like having like 2 pixels in here. Let me see if, because on the other side, this is like scaling. This is like totally scaling, and these dimensions in here are having the width and the height multiplied already by the scale. So that's what I can figure out of it. And in here, when we are doing this, we are changing also this this sizing, and this happens also in here. So this is totally scaling, but it's a little bit confusing because we see only dimension. But I also want to see the scale, the actual scale. So this will be an addition that I want to have on my editor. Scale y, scale x. Okay, perfect. Those values are probably also with another locked ratio. So locked ratio will be the size ratio, and the other one will be scale ratio. So locked ratio, toggle locked ratio. Do I want to? No, I don't. I don't. Probably they're going to be the same, but let's just have 2 functions for that. So locked ratio is going to become scale ratio, right? Okay, where is locked? Okay, this is also going to change. This is also going to change. Locked ratio here. This guy here is also going to change. Please. Okay. This one and also this one, right? So we should not have locked ratio anymore anywhere. This will be the toggle size ratio, toggle size. I keep saying ration, but it's actually ratio. There's this extra n that I keep putting in. Okay, and yeah, let's have this thing like this, and this will be toggle scale ratio. This will be basically the same function, but we are going to check the scale ratio value, size ratio here. This is also size ratio. Wait, did I put scale so far? Yeah, man. Size ratio was not scale. Size. I confused the two. So we have the only place right now where we have the scale is only in the scale, which is where it's supposed to be. Perfect. Toggle scale ratio in here. That's nice, I guess. That should be fine. But in here we want to have the scale x and the scale y, which currently is not yet existing in the active transform, because we need to add them. Not in here, but in here. Scale x, scale y. That's fine. Oh, and also when we are setting them in here, scale x, we need to either set the value of scale x or 1, because that's the default value they are going to have, scale y or 1. Okay, now this will have those two values, scale y, scale ratio will be scale x over scale y. Perfect. So there's not very much to it. This should be pretty much the same thing that we have on the other side. So I'm going just to copy the entire thing, and instead of having width here, we are going to have the name will be scale x, and here we are making it readable for the user, scale x. Okay, perfect. And this one will be the scale ratio. Toggle scale ratio. Okay, this will be the scale y. Okay, not high. Okay, scale y. Let me just check OBS. Okay. Let's see this. So yeah, we just added another property. Okay, this one is not showing any value right now. We are not initializing it inside of the property panel in here. We need also to do that, otherwise it's not going to show. Scale y. Scale y is going to be a simple number with a lot of values there, probably scale y. So we need to floor that one as well. Scale x. Sorry, I need to remove this. That's the next thing I'm going to do. Scale x, scale x. Okay. Now, if that worked, but it didn't. So next guess, it has to be in here. So scale x, scale. So many nice properties, but I mean, other than that, we are going to have like the fill properties, like the stroke properties, and then we should be done. Then we should be basically done. Yeah, you can see that. Okay, I have this. I'm going to change this value. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens. Okay, meaning that something else in the property panel is not being triggered correctly. Oh yeah, of course, we're missing the entire block here. So this is the functionality that we have for the size ratio, and now I need the same exact block but for the scale ratio. So this one will be scale ratio value. Please do the right thing. Scale ratio value. So if I see scale x. Yeah, okay, no, it's fine. I was being triggered by something, but it's fine. Scale y. Scale y. Else, then we have this entire thing, and basically we need to remove whenever we see like with basically scale x, whenever we have the size ratio. So let's just have a bunch of like replacements. Like size ratio is actually like scale ratio. Okay, then whenever we have width, we are actually having we actually have scale x. Okay. And then let me, whenever we have the height, we actually have scale y, right? I hope I didn't forget anything. That's nice. Okay, now moment of truth. Yes, it's working. It's working as expected. It's working as expected. So yeah, we like one thing that I'm pretty happy about is that we figured out a way to like trigger the changes on one side without having to like do them on the other side. But what will not happen now probably is, no, this also works. This also works. So we are changing the positions. Positions are also fine. We are changing the scale in here, and the scale is also being updated. The scale is also being updated. And now if I change it also only in one side, because it's being like, oh, okay, this is a very nice side effect actually, but it happened just that one. Oh wait, I'm changing this side. I'm changing this side, and it's actually like preserving the lock. By doing this, it's just going to keep it. But let me do like the resizing here. It's going to keep the lock. This is a feature. This is definitely a feature, which is just a side effect, but it sounds better if we call it a feature. Definitely. Absolutely, definitely. It's going to be like that. So we can remove some console logs that we have all around the place. And yeah, I think that we also can just say that we have added the scale X and scale Y to the property panel. Yep. So this is pretty nice. This is pretty nice. Now, let me see if I already have to go or if there is a little bit of time. There could be a little bit of time. There could be a little bit of time. And one thing that I see here is that we have a bunch of properties, like those properties here that can be like simplified a little bit. So const props, properties probably is better. Properties. We are going to have like the top, the left, width, height. Then we have the scale Y and the scale X. So those properties here. Okay, so I have to go for const property of properties. We are going to do the operation only once, because otherwise it's going to be like, it's just crazy. So this is property. So in that case it will be like top. Can remove the entire thing here, and then we can say, okay, this active property as key of the active, whatever active is a type of active, right? Can I do this, please? Object is possibly undefined. You sure? Wait a second. Key of type of active. Okay, okay. So active in here, I mean, is this like an actual complaint, or it's just trying to bother me without reason? So declaration statement expected. Did I? Okay. This is going to set the property. A string is not. I mean, okay, TypeScript. So this one, where this happens, this is when we have the active object that is changed. So this is changing everything correctly. So it's also changing like these positions here. This is also working now, and with just half, even less than the half of the code. So these are all the properties that we have in here. This is nice, and probably this kind of improvement I want to do it all over the place with other properties that I don't want to be writing each single time manually. This is too bothersome. But yeah, for now I think we are good to go. We are good to go with the features that we added today, and we have a basic panel that resembles somehow, but we already have one extra feature, which is we are not messing out with the actual dimensions and the scaling all together, like for example in here in this editor. But what we are doing is we are separating them, so whenever you have the width and like the scale, those things are different, meaning that in here if I change these values to be 1, and now I change the width to be like, I don't know, 120, and then 120, then I'm going to have the stroke of the size that I'm expecting it to be, which in this case is, I have no idea, but we have const A in here, which is the one, not B. The stroke width is 3, and I'm ensuring that this 3 is being maintained by changing the width and not the scale. Otherwise, with the scale, it would just change the size. Okay, perfect. So thank you for watching. I will hopefully be back soon. Unfortunately, like with the 9 to 5, it's hard to have a really good schedule. So yeah, I will try to be back as soon as possible to continue this project and probably add layers next. Yeah.